Outlaw Law is brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. Your law firm for life.
This week on The Outlaw Lawyer, Josh, Joe, and Cassandra discuss several notable legal stories that are currently new in the headlines and ask burning legal questions such as, does Josh know who Amber Heard actually is? Who's Joe's favorite Boston Bruin? And do any of the Outlaw Lawyers know who Young Thug is? That's all coming up next on The Outlaw Lawyer.
And now, Outlaw Lawyer.
Welcome into The Outlaw Lawyer. Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. I'm consumer advocate Morgan Patrick. Our guest attorney is Cassandra Nicholas. Again, she is also an attorney at Whitaker and Hamer. We have a lot to get into. If you've got a legal situation that you're facing and you have questions, I have a phone number for you, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. And just leave your contact information, briefly what the call is about. An attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. You can always email the program your questions. We'll use them on a future broadcast. questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. And again, Whitaker and Hamer with offices in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay, Varina, and Gastonia. And we're here to talk legalese. But first, I think we're going to little sidebar on a professional hockey team that's doing quite well.
I tell you what, Morgan, it has been a lot of fun to watch the Hurricanes.
At home.
At home. We've watched a couple of Hurricanes games at home, so we've watched they've had game 1, game 2, and then we just saw game 5 last night because we're in the studio Wednesday morning. And watching the Hurricanes play playoff hockey at the PNC is a lot of fun. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes. I don't think that's a controversial statement. If you're a fan of the Hurricanes, if you're a Bruins fan, probably not very fun watching Hurricanes hockey at PNC. But, I think it's a testament to how much fun it is, the fact that you watched the away games. You don't watch anything.
I don't usually watch the Hurricanes. I get YouTube TV.
Sure.
Don't get Bally.
Yeah, that's terrible, man. I have the same issue.
So I have to really go out of my way to see a Hurricanes game, an away game. And I haven't watched a lot of them, but with the playoffs being on ESPN, been able to watch them. And that was a disappointing, that'd be game 3 and game 4.
Well, the Hurricanes played well in at pieces of those games, especially the last game there. They were kind of in control, and then lack of discipline kind of fell apart. But
the lack of discipline is huge because Boston kind of goaded them into situations and took advantage, and they play well in front of their home fans, which, by the time this show airs, it's going to already go back to Boston on Thursday. Could be over, could be coming back for a game later tonight. So it'll be interesting.
I ended up over the past week just meeting a couple of clients who are Bruins fans. It just so happened.
How'd that go?
Salty. Everybody's a little bit salty. I like to think we have folks listening to the show, watching the show, who are both Hurricanes fans and Bruins fans.
Sure, there's some of them. But this is the thing about that. In my experience, I don't have a large cross section of the population that's like that, but I know a few. And the ones that I know that are like that, because we have a lot of transplants down here, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of transplants from up north. But most of the people that I know that are like that, they're here, so they'll pull for the Hurricanes. But they're primarily Bruins fans. Yeah. And they revert back to being terrible people whenever these two teams play, by and large.
My biggest takeaway from watching the 2 playoff games in Boston, I'm used to our home, and this is maybe a minor comparison, but I'm used to the is it Adam Lee Decker who sings?
That guy.
He sings fantastic. If you go to Hurricanes games, he sings the national anthem.
Didn't he write the national anthem too?
I think so. He's an amazing person. He does a really good job. And then the guy who sings the Boston national anthem, did not like him as much.
And and I think it's partially just because we like Adam Lee Decker so much. But even if you take him out of the equation, that guy leaves a lot to be desired.
I don't like his. It's kind of got like an opera take on the national anthem.
Yeah. Well, that's a Boston tradition. So for Boston fans, they absolutely love it, and I'm sure they love the fact that we play "Sweet Caroline."
Yeah,
when we're beating them here in North Carolina.
Even if we lose this series, which I don't think that's going to be the case, but even if we did, We still got Adam Lee Decker. They've got Aquaman singing.
Aquaman,
Yeah.
that's good. That's what his name should be. I don't know what his name is. I never will know what his name is. He'll be
Never
Aquaman.
again. Never again.
But and the Sweet Caroline thing, being a State fan, I can't get in on that. Like, I don't like it when the crowd sings Sweet Caroline. I wish they'd.
Well, it's not Carolina, it's Sweet Carolina.
That's close enough.
That's what you guys sing at football games and stuff.
Yeah. Well, a lot of no team owns that, right? Like, there's.
I don't know. You go to a Red
do.
Sox game and they play
It's big.
every
I get
game.
that. It's very big.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, man, the dislike that I've developed for just the Bruins just through this series. And I was never a big hockey guy. I always liked the Canes, obviously, just because it's our home team.
Yeah.
Never a huge hockey guy. Gradually becoming more of a hockey fan. And just by extension, like, I don't like any Boston teams now. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Just
Celtics,
by virtue of this.
Patriots.
Yeah. So never like
Red
the Patriots.
Sox.
I mean, obviously, if you're from here and you're a Panthers fan, you have a lot of reason to not be huge fans of the Patriots. But Red Sox never really did anything to me. Celtics never really did anything to me. But not a big fan currently in this moment.
Cassandra, have you ever? What's your hockey
I feel
experience?
really used to
Jump in.
We brought you here
I've
just to
been
talk
to a Canes game, and it was fun. It was
Yeah.
not during the series.
And for the folks who don't know, you're originally from.
North Dakota, which is a big hockey state, but we don't have any professional teams.
Right.
So
Like the state hasn't adopted a neighboring hockey team. Like, what's
no, we have a semi-pro hockey team, the Fargo Force. And
That's a pretty sweet
they're-
name, though.
I like
Yeah,
that.
right?
I like that.
They're
I bet
fun
the
to watch.
beers are cheaper at those games
Yeah.
than it's
Oh,
supposed
for
to.
sure.
Yeah.
Pro rings.
I imagine
It's
so.
Well, I bring that up, Cassandra, because you've moved here in the past couple of years, past year or two, and one of the things I wanted to talk about today was the very exciting topic of judicial elections, right? So that's before I went to law school. Judicial elections were one of those things where you go to vote because you want to vote in like the national midterms or whatever, and so you got this list of judges, and the average person probably doesn't know who any of these judges are. And when I first started voting many years ago, they weren't really broken down by political affiliation. And then I don't know when that started in North Carolina. It's been a while now, but now you've got your Republican candidates and you've got your Democratic candidates. But I was just thinking about the person who's not an attorney, who doesn't spend their time in a courtroom, who don't deal with these judges every day.
Who are committing crimes.
Yeah.
They got a vested interest.
How do you pick who you vote for judge? I know when I didn't know this stuff before I went to law school, it was random, right? Maybe
It would be probably random. I mean, that's the thing. You got, like, how do you know? Like, the system is designed to how do you, like, literally, how do you know? Like, is someone going to hand you a pamphlet that, like, talks about this person's accomplishments and what they do? Are you going to see a commercial? Like, the way that our system is, it's very difficult to know. And I wonder if there was like a venue, like an avenue to which you could learn more easily about these people, which I guess there kind of is. Like, people could seek out information, but would people even care to spend their time learning about these candidates?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, because you go to vote for, let's say you really wanted to support, like Democratic Senate candidates, and that's why you show up, and then everything else is like an afterthought,
Sure.
right? And it's always the people with like the weird names, right? That people will vote. Like,
I go weird name. Yeah, you give me a weird name, that's all day, man.
Yeah. Like, if you want your kid to be a judge, name him Judge. Right?
Yeah, Judge.
Or like Learned Hand, or give him like
Yeah.
a really,
Oh, man.
give him
vote
like
for
a
that
real,
guy.
because I think that's what most people do. For better or worse, I'm not criticizing. You get there, you got a choice between two. You've already come to vote. You want to vote, right? And I think the default is, for me, it'd been like, oh, that guy sounds like he could be a judge, or that lady sounds like she could be a judge, And I know there's watchdog groups and people put out information, but yeah, I don't think the average person. I don't really have a solution for this problem. I just wanted to pose it to
point
you.
it out.
Yeah.
I like how we do that. We identify these problems and we have no idea how to fix any of them.
Yeah, Josh is like, pick the cool name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our official advice.
I think the solution regarding judicial elections is to not elect judges, but that might be.
How did they do it where you're from?
That
Do
was
you remember? Do you
That was
know?
a
I
solution.
don't remember.
Well, I mean,
I should. I know that when I've studied abroad a couple of times, and Europeans are very invested in how America should not have elected judges. Like in completely non-political conversations, people would bring it up and say, it's really weird that you guys elect judges.
Well, it is. I mean,
it's not my fault.
No, it's your fault.
It really is.
Well, you think about it, the Supreme Court, justices are not elected. Yeah. They're appointed, right? And I feel like, especially over the past, as everything gets more politicized, judges running on like the conservative ticket. Like I think the last go around that I remember seeing this, like there was a whole list of judges for North Carolina Supreme Court, North Carolina Court of Appeals, and they all came together on like the conservative ticket, maybe there should be an appointment process. I don't think we're going to drive the change, but
we're not going to drive the change.
And we get a lot. I noticed in North Carolina we end up with a lot of a lot of judge like the incumbents usually have an advantage, but I don't know that rings true for judges. So it seems like we get a lot of new judges on the bench, and there's good and bad things that go along with that. But
how could a person that, like you said, doesn't spend a lot of time in court, how do they know? How do they know how effective a judge is?
You wouldn't.
You really wouldn't.
And
I guess you can look at stats, but what do the stats even mean?
I was thinking about Cassandra was just telling us that she's getting ready to vote for the first time in North Carolina. And that made me think about it too. Like
you seem jazzed about it too. I can see the energy coursing through your body.
And it's the primaries coming up. So you're voting in either the Republican or the Democratic primary. I'm registered unaffiliated, so I was looking at both ballots, just seeing which way to go, which one I want to.
Well, this is a dumb question because I really don't know. If you're unaffiliated, do you just pick which primary? Yeah. Oh, you just pick.
Yeah.
You can vote either. It's like you're an independent.
Yeah, it's like you have free
but
choice.
But North Carolina did not have an independent option as a registration option. It was unaffiliated instead. So
all the unaffiliated people should pull together and really form like a third party.
That's right.
But if you're unaffiliated, you're independent, correct?
Yeah.
There you go. There's your party.
All right. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Some of it's stuff we've talked about before. I want to spend some time. We did the whole show last week about the U.S. Supreme Court leak. And I think there's still more fallout to talk about. There's some things that have happened since we last got together last week. So we're going to spend a minute or two talking about that. The Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial is still out there, is still a thing that's going on. So we're going to spend some time talking about that today. Young Thug, one of Joe's favorite artists.
People.
Let's
not reduce him to being an artist. He's one of my favorite people.
Was arrested on RICO charges. And Morgan, you hear RICO like in the movies, and you don't that statute.
You hear it in a lot of rap music as well.
RICO?
Yeah. Probably some of Young Thug's own songs discuss that.
So we're going to spend some time talking about that, but lots of legal news items to discuss.
All right, we'll get to it. The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer. Our special guest today is Cassandra Nicholas, also an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer. If you've got a legal situation that you're facing and you've got questions, you can always call 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what the call's about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And you can always email your questions to the show, questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. Just remember, their offices practically everywhere for Whitaker and Hamer: Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, and Gastonia. So, folks, stay tuned. We're coming back right after this.
When you're closing on your dream home, you need attorneys you can trust. Real estate closings are so much more than signing documents and handing off the keys. The process includes title searches, review surveys, funding transactions, and so much more. The law firm of Whitaker and Hamer has a dedicated team with decades of legal experience in real estate. They can make getting you into your dream home a little bit easier. Their team has closed tens of thousands of real estate transactions in North Carolina. It's important to have a real estate law team that will have your back every step of the way. Call 800-659-1186. Again, that's 800-659-1186. Or visit their website, wh.lawyer, to set up your closing with their team.
Welcome back into the Outlaw Lawyer. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate, joined on set by the Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer. Our special guest is Cassandra Nicholas. She's an attorney also at Whitaker and Hamer. And Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm has offices in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay, Varina, and Gastonia. And just a reminder, Josh and Joe are practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. They're the managing partners of the firm. If you've got a legal situation that you are facing, you can always call the firm, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what the call is about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And you can always email your questions to the program. We'll use them on a future program show. We'll use them on a future show that is upcoming. Again, that's questions at theoutlawlawyer.com. Where we're getting into it, Dodd versus Jackson Women's Health leak, the fallout.
Yeah, so Morgan, you were here, so you may very well remember last week, that's all we talked about. Huge news story, especially if you're an attorney, especially if you're a fan of what's going on in the courts and legal news. So we spent an entire show just talking about that leak, what we could figure out from that leak. We read the opinion, but there's still more fallout from the leak. You know, one of the things we talked about was there was a lot of speculation on who caused the leak, why they caused the leak. And that's unsettled. It looks like the Supreme Court's, so there's some stuff I didn't know. The Supreme Court has their own police department. Mm-hmm. The court has its own little police department. And there seemed to be a lot of controversy over just who would investigate the leak. Does the FBI investigate the leak? You know, what happens? But it seems like it's just going to be the internal Supreme Court.
Yeah, the marshals.
What do we call them? The marshals?
Is that what they're called?
I feel like we missed a golden opportunity to call them something cooler than that.
Yeah.
The Supreme Force, I don't know.
Yeah, there's lots of options out there. But then I saw some, you know, they don't really have subpoena power, they can't make people talk to them, and it was kind of hard to figure out what they were going to figure out with their
just try really hard,
very limited
please talk to me.
Pretty please.
And at the Supreme Court, they're not going to be tricking anyone to talk to them. They're approaching very educated lawyers saying, what do you know?
Not necessarily morons there.
I saw a couple of, again, I went to the place you shouldn't go for ever for news. We sit here and we talk about, I like to tell you guys what I've been reading, who I think's been following the story the best. And I'm doing the exact opposite of what I would normally advise. And I'm just heading to Twitter just to see what random people are screaming into the Twitterverse. But I saw a couple of folks try to do their own detective work and figure out who they thought it would be, but they were just blaming, private persons for the most part, and that didn't seem to go very well. I don't know if you saw any of that.
No, I did not. How do you get to that conclusion of just blaming private persons?
Well, I know a lot of people have been just saying that it was Ginny Thomas, just because she was already in hot water for exceeding her role as the spouse of a Supreme Court justice. Yeah. I don't think it was Ginny Thomas, but I'm not involved in the investigation.
Yeah, we're not going on record with that prediction.
I saw a bunch of folks who either knew or figured out who a lot of the law clerks were for a lot of the Supreme Court justices, and they were trying to, internet detective their way to figuring out who they were friends with and who they associated with.
The amount of free time that some people have, man, just really astonishes me.
There are people out there, yes, with an astonishing level of free time.
A lot of people, like people who make memes and things like that, that seems like a fun lifestyle that I enjoy, but how?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's just they don't have a bunch of children and things like that, or they abandon them maybe.
So we're
set to play.
We're a week away. We're a week removed from the leak, a little bit more than a week, and I have no confidence that we'll ever know who.
I think we'll know. I feel like
I think we're only going to know if someone just tells us they
can. But at some point, right? At some point.
Maybe 28 years from now.
Exactly.
It'll be like a blurb.
When there's space abortions and things of just we're at a whole nother level. This is who set this all in motion one day.
The other thing I noticed, you had this. It seemed to just start over the past couple of years, but there's this group of people that will protest. If a elected official. Here, a Supreme Court justice does something that they don't particularly care for, they'll protest at their homes, on their driveways, that kind of thing. So we're seeing a lot of that. I saw the Senate did pass a bill to provide more security protection for a Supreme Court justice and their family.
They're going to send the Supreme Force out there to hold it down for them.
Call them the Supremes. Oh, wait, that's taken.
I'm surprised that actually took a bill by Congress to better protect the Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, I didn't know what kind of level of protection a Supreme Court justice needed before now, but apparently the House, Senate, everybody who needed to vote on it all agreed that they needed more, and the Congress got that done.
Not following it as closely as you guys are, because I don't have this free time that these protesters have. But is this universal protest both ways? Like, are we seeing protest at conservative and liberal justices, like from each side?
I don't know that. I haven't seen.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been at the homes of both, but there are protesters at the Supreme Court on both sides.
Of course, yeah, I can see that. So,
I moved down from D.C. a couple of years ago now.
Where haven't you been?
I know. And through law school, participated in a few protests in D.C. I won't tell you which ones.
So the unaffiliated protests. We don't care about anything.
But D.C. is... They're very good at handling protests. They get those gates set out really fast.
They're probably the best. Some of the best in the world.
They're directing traffic. Yeah. They've got so if there's any place to protest, DC is the place to do it.
Sure, I get that.
The other thing I was thinking about is if you're, I think we can kind of assume this leak. We don't know who leaked it. We don't know what their political affiliation was, and we don't know their reasoning. But I think we're safe to assume that someone leaked this on purpose to do something to affect judges' votes. Either, I think there's a theory that this will lock them in because a judge who's already voted doesn't want to change their vote. It seemed like they got persuaded. And there's another line of reasoning that's like, we'll protest at the judges' homes and they'll be intimidated or somehow come to a new decision, right? Depending on what side you believe. But I wonder if this is affecting, a Supreme Court justice, how they voted.
It's a very interesting point you made, because you could see it going either way.
Right.
You could see it like just on principle. I'm not going to change, and you could see.
Because that's what I would do.
Well, I don't.
Whatever my vote was, like.
Even if you changed your mind, even if you actually changed your mind, you'd be like, you know what?
Because I double down. That's what I do in like trivia, like in bar trivia. Like if I guess an answer and everybody disagrees with me, and it's probably wrong, like I still just double down.
That's
on
the thing, man.
Like,
this is a serious issue that you shouldn't just do to spite people. But if I've got people protesting at my house, I feel like I'm just, you know what? I hate you people.
Yeah.
Even if I change my mind, this is what I'm doing. So
that's something that's been getting a lot of coverage. And when I went down this Twitter verse hole that I shouldn't be in, I saw a lot of people tweeting about the abortion issue, and this would be people who were I guess pro-abortion.
They call it pro-choice, Josh.
Pro-choice.
yeah, Josh.
Pro-choice.
Josh.
Talking about separation of church and state, like that. There's a lot of legal issues at play here, but I saw a lot of like editorial cartoons and things like that talked about keeping church and religion separate. That's not. I would argue that's not really what this case is about.
You can. I mean, if you look at this as like a sanctity of life issue, like that's independent of like religious values,
Well, and not necessarily even sanctity of life, but at what point in time does...
That's a scientific question to some people. Like, it doesn't have to be a religious issue. I'm just saying, you could frame it in ways where it's absolutely not a... But then again, there is a big religious component to this for a lot of people. So you can understand why that people would make the mistake of kind of equating those two things.
Well, the legal issue that the Supreme Court is looking at here is abortion a constitutionally protected right? So that's kind of what the Supreme Court has looked at. And so nowhere in this leaked opinion, if you read it, does it
all
talk,
98 pages.
Yeah, all 98 pages. Does it discuss separation of church and state? So from a legal attorney perspective, this is not a separation of church and state issue. Now, I know a lot of people could see it that way, right? Because it was now when a Supreme Court justice gets confirmed, their religious views are a very big, it's something they get asked about, right? So we know
it's understandable why, because certain religious beliefs are really frame the way someone would look at this issue,
right?
And it's only logical to believe that an individual who's just a person who's supposed to be a neutral judge judging based on the law isn't necessarily going to be able to put aside strong religious convictions.
Yeah.
And just look at something independent of that.
Right. But I thought that was a legal technicality that maybe, someone who wasn't a practicing attorney maybe would not pick up on. So even though religion's probably important to the debate for those reasons, it's not legally, this isn't a First Amendment case. This isn't an Establishment Clause case. This isn't a separation of church and state case. So I thought that was interesting because a lot of people were going that way with it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in the national media, a lot of individuals are going that way, but that's not what we're dealing with from an attorney perspective.
Did you tell those people on Twitter that?
No, I didn't. I just judged them silently.
That's what
he was just looking down the rabbit hole. He didn't actually go down.
He didn't want to go
I haven't checked your Twitter. Do you tweet much?
I don't. I retweet stand-up comedians and old pro wrestlers a lot.
Yeah.
That's really all I do on there.
So that's probably what the algorithm would bring to me.
I was going to ask this question because we talked about it in our last program. Do you think there's any significance to the draft being dated late February and then it gets leaked in early May? It's almost like, did the draft change and the people that didn't like the change leaked the draft?
Oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Or did the draft not change and the people that didn't like the fact that the draft wasn't changing, they somehow
you got to think they had access to it.
I mean, it's sitting there for a good month.
Sure.
Marinating, and all of a sudden it gets leaked. I just think that's interesting.
I think we proposed at the time when we were talking about this last week that there's probably some concurring opinions floating around and some, like we talked, I think we used some scathing. I think is the word we used. So you think there's been healthy, robust discussion over these couple of months?
Sure.
And who knows? Again, I don't know that we can really, like we talked about earlier, I don't know that we can point to a side because who knows why the leaker leaked.
Yeah.
Why did the leaker leak?
Say that 10 times.
Yeah. But and then today again we're in the studio on a Wednesday, so by the time you hear this, it'll have already come to pass one way or the other. But we were just reading that. The Senate intends to put for a vote a bill that would guarantee access to abortions. But we were just reading that just now.
That's supposed to happen today. However, the filibuster still exists. They haven't gotten rid of that. So in order for this bill to pass the Senate, they would need 60 votes. The Democrats would need 60 votes, and they absolutely do not have 60 votes. So this is expected to fail today. But it's really for the purpose of them being able to debate it on the floor, put out their views and their criticisms of Republican views, essentially. So it gives them a platform, even though it's not expected to have an effect.
I think that's a good segue to talking about our next segment with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, because it's a similar thing where it's probably not going to accomplish anything, but it gives them a good platform to put a lot of argument out there.
Well, I think it's a good play. I think we're heading into midterms, and no matter what side of the debate you're on, I like the fact they're putting people to task and saying, well, what side are you on? Because that's kind of what that was. In the leak, Justice Alito was basically saying this shouldn't be a Supreme Court issue. Your elected officials, whether on the state level or on the federal level, this is something that needs to be legislated. Mm-hmm. And Congress doesn't seem to get a whole lot done, right? They're usually deadlocked, and so I think this is a good thing for whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. The people voting for you need to know what side you stand on. Putting it to a vote and seeing who votes no, I think that's going to be real tough for a lot of these folks who don't want to take a stand right before midterms. But I've already seen the election commercials change, right? This is the number one thing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, all the election commercials have changed, and one of they're talking about abortion and your constitutional rights and what they'll protect or what they'll stop. But everything has changed. This is defining the whole midterm election now, for better or worse.
Seems like a pretty big deal, man. This thing.
Yeah, it is. It's something everybody seems to have a very strong opinion on, and where compromise is difficult, right? Anytime you have a situation where you have competing equities that don't have a good avenue for negotiation, for compromise, you get these polarizing moments like this, and who knows, right? I mean, who knows where we end up.
The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer. You can find them at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. They're the managing partners there, practicing attorneys here in the great state of North Carolina. Our special guest on set today is Cassandra Nicholas, also an attorney at Whitaker and Hamer. If you've got a legal situation that you're facing and you need some answers, I've got a phone number for you, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what the call's about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And you can email your questions to the program, questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. We'll answer those on future programs. Coming up next, Depp versus Heard defamation.
So a lot of people ask why they should go with Whitaker and Hamer over all the other firms in the area, and I'd like to give you 3 reasons why. Reason number 1 is that we have multiple locations throughout the state in order to better help serve you, and that's ranging from Clayton and Garner all the way down to Gastonia. Reason number 2 is that we are a full-service law firm. We can handle matters from your real estate closing to your traffic ticket to your estate to your divorce and your will and everything in between. Reason number 3 is that the combined experience of our attorneys is over 40 years, and all that experience is waiting and willing to help you. So give us a call at 919-772-7000.
Welcome back to the Outlaw Lawyer. We have Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer, also practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Our special guest on set is Cassandra Nicholas, also an attorney at Whitaker and Hamer. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. Whitaker and Hamer offices in Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, and Gastonia. If you've got a legal situation you're facing, you've got questions, I've got a phone number for you, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what the call's about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And you can always email your questions to the program. We'll try to answer those on future shows. And again, that is questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. Depp versus Heard.
Before we get there, Morgan, I wanted to check in with our friend Joseph. I understand, Joseph, that you are
correspondent Joe.
That you have not. You've been fasting, so you have not eaten breakfast today.
Yeah, man. I'm not a. Yes, this is true.
Are you able to focus?
Yes, I'm doing great. You ever wake up and just be like, I hate the way that my body feels right now, Josh? Has that ever happened to you?
It does. It happens a lot. It happens a lot.
Yeah. So, I eat a lot of McDonald's breakfast, Josh. This is I'll tell you that. Burger like that. It's my worst meal of the day. And there's this thing, it's intermittent fasting. Some people do it. It's supposedly very healthy for you. Basically, you have a varying window of fasting. It has health benefits, apparently, is what I've heard. So I've been doing that, man.
And you like it?
Yeah, it's going all right. It's good. It sounds more difficult than it is, and I think it's tough at first, and then gradually you get used to it like you do with anything else.
Break it down. What do you do?
I usually just stop eating between 7 and 8, and then I'll eat again at between 11 and 12, usually somewhere in that area.
So 7 to 8 o'clock at night.
Somewhere around there. It's supposed to be 16 hours, I think, technically, but I'm kind of it's just loosey goosey, man. I'm not too serious about it, but I'll do water, I'll do black coffee. Big black coffee guy. I don't know about you, Josh. Don't like putting things in my coffee.
I don't either.
Yeah. So. But yeah, it's I don't know the science behind it, but there's the proponents of it, like the smart ones, not me, the ones that are smart and know things, they can rattle off crazy health benefits for it. There's just a lot. And I think the theory is, this is all, I could be completely wrong because this is not, I'm an attorney. I'm not a health science person, but I think the theory is in the wild, if you look at us when we were in the wild, we wouldn't just consume food constantly. There wasn't a constant supply of food. You would hunt. So you'd spend time looking for your food, and then you would eat it. So there was these windows. So that supports a more optimal, that's I think that might be.
We're going back to caveman times.
We're going back.
So I got a question for everybody. Fast food breakfast.
Yeah.
Is delicious.
It is, man. And it honestly has to have some, I've determined that what they put in crack, they put in like McDonald's biscuits.
Okay, before we get into this, just from a sponsorship deal,
Sure.
do we have to mention names? Because we could go out and get advertising for the show.
Well, this is the thing about, I think that's a
Bleep
pretty good
those
ad.
out,
Like
please.
McDonald's biscuits, as good as crap.
Well, no. I was gonna do. Well, what's McDonald's? Was it Egg McMuffin? What's their biggest?
They got
brand?
muffins. They got McGriddles. They've got hot
What do you like the
cakes.
best? What would you get?
Just a biscuit, man. I'm not a complicated guy.
right,
Just
all
give
right.
me a biscuit.
All right, so you got a McDonald's biscuit. You got a Burger King croissant one.
Yeah,
Which one do you prefer?
all right, man. So we could do several minutes on the nuances between the McDonald's and Burger King sausage. That Burger King sausage has got a little more spice to it, man. It's a little more authentic to like that what your like grandmother would cook. Neither like what your grandmother would cook, obviously.
Right.
But then that croissant, man, something about that croissant really does it for me, man. So it's funny, man. I probably prefer that Burger King, but I eat that McDonald's a lot more. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because I'm lazy and it's where I drive more frequently. But,
Cassandra, any thoughts?
I'm not on this health and fitness grind. We went as a firm
not a
event
grind,
a
just
couple
not
of nights
eating for
ago.
a
As
period
part
of
of my
time.
job, I was paid to go bowling 2 days ago, and I'm still sore.
I'm still sore.
bowling. So I'm not at your level, Joe.
So is that like team building, a bowling activity?
That was a bowling event that a local association had.
Okay.
And so the firm we mounted up a team and went bowling and did.
And we did
all
not
right.
train appropriately for it because
Did you use the rails
I
or
was
did you
not-
go?
No,
Oh, I
we
wish.
Yeah, it's a tournament.
That-
They wouldn't let you, right? They won't let you use the rails.
There was no rails, but
It
it was
was
9
9-pin.
Yeah.
9-pin. That usually helps out a lot for me.
So, but anyway, yeah, I too didn't want to admit it in the office, but I'll admit it on.
Exactly, perfect. None of the staff is watching this anyway.
But I got up and I was like, man, did I hurt my knee? Like,
It's like, what happened?
Josh, you as my rec league basketball coach for many years, I know you're in awe of my sheer athleticism. Does not translate to bowling in any way, man. No, shape
you
or
have
form.
never been a.
It doesn't translate.
You have many athletic abilities, but it has never translated to a bowling.
I can put together like 2 or 3 good frames sometime, and I'll be like, I'm figuring this out, man.
Yeah, you seem
and then it
un-
falls apart.
You seem uncomfortable.
I get in my head too much, man. I get in my head, But,
You're a competitor. You want to be good at it, and it's just frustrating.
One of our team members got a. We were bowling, and one of our team members, who shall go nameless, was not Cassandra, was not me.
Then we have 3 people on the team. This is going to be easy to figure. I guess you had to be there to deduce who this was.
But there's only so many things you can do wrong in bowling, right? You can get a gutter, you can get a strike, but there's not really, it's not like basketball where you can get technical fouls or travel, right? There's not. But the only thing you can do, like you cross the line, it's a foul.
Okay, there's a worse thing. We'll talk about that. But yeah, you crossing the line, that's a foul.
So we had a teammate get a foul in the bowling tournament.
What's worse than that is when you do the thing. It's not frequent, but when you do the thing, you hold the ball and you literally throw it across lanes and smack.
I don't even know what that is.
That's a thing. You've never seen that happen.
That's called getting kicked out of the lane.
It's just a gutter, right?
It's a gutter, but I'm talking like you literally throw it
Hit someone
out of your
else's
lane and
pins.
it travels a lane or 2 over.
I don't think I've ever seen that happen.
You haven't been watching a lot of bowling, my friend.
Yeah.
Obviously.
They're holding the follow through a little too long.
Yeah.
Well, our segment was not about any of that. Our segment is just to follow up on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, which the last time we talked about it, we were in the middle of Johnny Depp's. That doesn't even seem like a real name. It seems like it's a character name.
It's a sweet name, though, man, honestly.
This is that. Speaking of names, this is not important either. So I went and watched Doctor Strange. Good movie. Have you seen it?
I don't know.
I've
You
heard
seem
it's
like
good.
what Doctor Strange 2?
I've heard
not
it's
What do
good.
you do? Have you seen? Do you know who Doctor Strange is? It's not a movie about the medical field.
I was just going to bring up Alley Cats, the Disney movie.
Okay,
But,
yeah.
Doctor Strange.
Well, we need to get back to that. It sounded important. And I don't know what that is.
That's not important.
Oh, you haven't seen
But I saw Doctor Strange 2, and with any Marvel, it was very good. Everybody should go see it.
Yeah.
Any Marvel movie now, I already know ahead of time, does this have one end of credit sequence or 2 or 3, right? So we're all sitting there, and we get through the first mid-credit scene. And so then you're stuck sitting there, right? Because there's one coming up at the end. So you actually have to wait, which is brilliant, because who would pay attention to the
No one would.
But I'm reading the credits because you're there, you're bored, and you're just watching. And right after that middle scene, if you look, there's like I think it was director of photography. It's like right in the middle, and there's 3 names. And one of the names is Johnny Gamble.
Wow.
And I hope that's this guy's real name.
Sure.
But I almost wanted it to be my name. I thought about maybe this is.
It could be. There's a legal avenue.
I'd vote
that
for
could be
a
your
Judge
name.
Gamble.
Oh, I'd vote for
That'd be a good.
Yeah.
Any criminal type thing, right? Any like Judge Larceny or Judge Murder.
Judge Murder. Murder Jones.
All right, Cassandra, you had an important point in this Johnny Depp trial to bring up.
Oh, nope, that was about bowling, alley cats.
So is this a movie? What is this?
Yeah, it was a Disney original movie about a bowling team.
Were they
And
cats?
They weren't cats,
Okay.
but they were nerdy, and it comes down to the final thing, and it's an 8-10 split, and this girl sits down on the floor and starts spinning the bowling ball, and then gently pushes it.
This sounds
That's
like
a classic move.
And I considered doing
Not
that.
seen Alley Cats. Johnny Depp, not in Alley Cats. No Amber Heard.
No.
Zac Efron in Alley Cats. I'm trying to figure who is the
Zach and Zach. They were Disney people, weren't they?
Zach and Cody. Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Your kids probably saw that.
Lizzie
one.
McGuire. Is
Yeah,
that a thing?
she's still
She's
alive.
doing
Officially.
great. She
Yeah,
just
I
has
think she's doing pretty well.
the How I Met Your Father.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man.
Star.
I really enjoy. I think this should be a new thing where we present a segment and don't speak about
Well,
it.
I think this is a metaphor for how unimportant.
Yeah,
Johnny
that's a good
Depp-
point, man. Legally now, and this is the thing. You say it's unimportant, but you see like the stats of who's live streaming it. You had 587,000 people live streaming this trial, and I think when you say it's unimportant, like it's unimportant in the sense that it's going to have no bearing on like the law. Like there's not going to be any kind of groundbreaking changes that come from this case. But like it's entertaining to people, man. It's like a train wreck. People love to see a train wreck where no one dies, right?
Yeah, I mean, millions of people watch the Kardashians. I don't
Yeah,
understand
exactly.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they were suing each other for defamation?
This is like the same amount of people that watch wrestling on any given day.
Yeah. They should wrestle.
Well, we had an editorial in our materials for the show. I read this editorial. There was an attorney out of Virginia who, like us, was like, this is not important.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to result in any new law. Like, I think we said that as like, this is if these people weren't famous, you would never in a million years know that this was happening. Maybe the defecation angle.
No,
would give you,
I guarantee you, man, there's hundreds of people pooping in beds every day, and you don't hear about it.
it's just not a big.
It's just not a big deal. How does it come up? How does that come up? No one's going to, at the water cooler,
That'd be
hey,
interesting.
guess what happened to me yesterday?
My spouse defecated.
My lady came in. Yeah, it's not a thing, man.
But this attorney, I think it was a she. This attorney was like, I hope they both get judgments against them, right? She hopes
Yeah.
that's the result because there's there's Johnny Depp's claim of defamation, there's a counterclaim of defamation, and she hopes they both win, right? They both just get judgments against each other, and we all get to go back to talking about alley cats or
Alley cats.
more important pressing things.
Yes. Sounds like a great movie, man. I'm going to put my kids on it as soon as possible.
I can't believe you hadn't seen it.
Well, how long? Like, this is not that long ago
It was
of a
like-
Disney original.
No, it was a long time ago. That's why you should have seen it.
Now, see, I missed the boat on the Disney movies.
Like, did
that
it come
wasn't
out in
a thing
movie
that I
theaters,
was,
or was it-
I cared
No,
about.
it's an old cartoon.
Is this pre
No,
or
it
post?
was live. It was.
Oh, it was live
Is this
action.
like pre or post? So this is a
late
TV
90s,
show, or
early
this is a
2000s.
movie?
It's
this-
a Disney original movie.
Okay, is this pre or post High School Musical 1?
Pre.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Was this about the same time as like the Paula Abdul scat video to cat? What was that, Cats?
Scat?
Are
we back to
post
talking about the
Paula
Heard
Abdul
trial?
and pre
I gotta look this up. Give me 1 second,
High
please.
School Musical.
I gotta see who's in this movie.
All right.
We'll get
Okay.
an update. We'll get an update.
The show is officially off the rails.
I love that.
We're having some fun. The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. They're practicing attorneys here in the great state of North Carolina. And again, our guest this week is Cassandra Nicholas, also an attorney at Whitaker and Hamer. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. If you've got a legal situation, not a movie question, but a legal situation that you need answers to, I've got a phone number for you. 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact info and briefly what that call is about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And as always, you can email the program questions at theoutlawlawyer.com, and we'll answer it on a future show. The Outlaw Lawyer is back right after this.
Breaking up is hard, but your divorce doesn't have to be. Navigating the family law court system can be tricky. Let Whitaker and Hamer PLLC handle your divorce for you. Our experienced attorneys will listen to your story with compassion and understanding, and will be there to explain the family law process every step of the way. Providing you with a clear understanding of the legal process while advocating for you is our top priority, so you can spend your energy focusing on your family. Give us a call at 800-659-1186. Again, that's 800-659-1186. Or visit our website at wh.lawyer to set up your consultation with our team. Again, that's www.wh.lawyer.
Welcome back into the Outlaw Lawyer. We have Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm. They're also practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Our guest on set is Cassandra Nicholas. She's also an attorney at Whitaker and Hamer. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. If you've got a legal situation that you are facing, I've got a phone number for you. It's 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what that call is about, and somebody with Whitaker and Hamer, an attorney, will be in touch, and you can have that discussion. Also, you can email your questions to the show, questions@theoutlawlawyer.com. It's been an interesting show already, guys. Where are we going next?
Well, Morgan, when I do my prep for the show, I always like to look at what's in the news, and sometimes I'll pick stuff that I'm not very familiar with, and so this next story is not one that I am intimately familiar with. I just started reading about it today, but I'm guessing a popular musical artist, Young Thug, was arrested.
It's about time we got into some important legal issues on this show.
Was arrested, and this is kind of a crazy charge. This is RICO. Right, so you hear that a lot. Someone being brought up on RICO charges. Cassandra, what does that actually even mean?
It is the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act.
So that became a thing. That's a federal law that was passed in like this. I don't know. It was like late '60s, early '70s. The feds were trying to track down
organized crime.
Yeah, like mobsters. Yeah,
exactly.
like the heads of these organizations that didn't actually physically commit crimes, right? So they didn't kill people, right? They didn't commit murder. Yeah. They weren't out there committing larceny. They weren't out there selling the drugs, but they were in charge of the operation that was doing it, and it was very hard to make any kind of charges stick under the regular statutory scheme. So this RICO legislation came along that made them, if you prove certain things, even though... So here they're accusing Young Thug of a lot of things, including murder. I mean, there's like 50 some
basically
charges.
Like heading a criminal enterprise, basically.
But the RICO allows you, like Joe, if you were heading a criminal enterprise, even though you may not
quotes,
even though you may not have actually committed a murder, they can stick you with a murder charge via RICO. So RICO became a very popular way to take out these organized crime syndicates.
The 70s, man. Like so they use this to go after a lot of mobsters. So give me like your when you think of like a tough, like stone cold killer type of mobster type. What comes to mind for you?
Tony Soprano.
Okay, Tony Soprano. You take Tony Soprano, and then you put Young Thug beside him, who's a slender, taller man that wears dresses. Generally,
I read that.
Yeah, he's a dress guy, and it's just like it's crazy to think the wide breadth of things that you can go after with the statute. But yeah, Young Thug, I could have, like, if I would have bet anything, you were a big Young Thug guy.
So my, no, I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah. You know his dad, Old Thug.
Yeah, we went to high school together.
Yeah,
Older Thug.
That's the thing about Young. Like, there's a lot of young rappers. That's you forever. Like, there's no transition.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Where you become middle-aged or old.
So I came up during. Biggie Smalls and Wu-Tang, and that's the kind of stuff I enjoy, right?
Yeah.
I enjoy that. About 2003, I checked out.
Sure.
Right? I didn't, everybody has that age, and Joe, maybe you haven't hit it yet.
I don't know, man. I'm not the biggest Young Thug fan. Like some songs, you can just get into for whatever reason. Like he was one of the first guys that I would consider like kind of a mumble rapper where you don't really understand much of what he just makes a lot of like noises like that.
The author in the article in our materials called his music melodic, mournful flow.
Yeah, there's a lot of like if you if you had a stomach ache and you were in bed writhing in pain and someone put a microphone, that's pretty good. That's a lot of like what it sounds like, man.
So my boys will tell me about little somebody, right, or baby somebody, and I was making fun of them for that, and I imagine that's a lot like my parents. Like I was a big iced tea kid.
Sure.
Like I liked iced tea.
Yeah. I like
the beverage, and I also enjoy the artist.
I would drink gallons. That's a story for another day, but gallons of iced tea into my body.
Yeah.
How I survive.
But Ice-T and Ice Cube, my parents used to make fun of that when I was a kid. Like, but yeah.
Ice-T or Ice Cube?
Are you just right now? Are you just little? Like, was it Lil Baby? That's what one of my kids was like.
There's Lil Baby. There's Da Baby. There's Lil Baby. It confuses people.
It's not a new thing. Like in the 90s, there was Lil Romeo, and he eventually did drop. He's just Romeo now.
I feel like I would be willing to bet that some of Lil Romeo's music appears on Alley Cat's Strikes. That would be.
Way to tie the segment together.
Yeah. We should Google the soundtrack though. See, there's probably is like a soundtrack. That came out.
There's definitely a soundtrack. But
But you don't see this RICO statute. You just don't see it that much anymore, or maybe you just don't hear about it that much.
No, and I think beyond the whole RICO aspect, and I guess it is relevant to the RICO aspect, but something you have seen. You don't see it a ton, but you have seen this kind of the idea that things that rappers rap about being kind of used against them,
right?
That was in criminal proceedings. That's really what's that's a big part of the issue here. So, and it's tough, lyrics, man, because you look at the lyrics and you read them, and they can read like admitting to murdering people, but like that's rap music, man. Like that is not all rap music, but a lot of rap music is kind of rooted in things of that nature and singing of things of that nature, and it's storytelling, right?
It's just like it's just like if you were a fiction writer and you wrote all these murders.
100%, man. Like
but there's
Stephen
a difference
King's not
if
out there murdering everybody,
We don't think.
But there are no murders associated with Stephen King.
Sure.
Whereas in this instance, Young Thug is a founder and organizer of YSL.
Is that allegedly, or is that just a thing?
I don't think that this is allegedly. Okay. I think he is affiliated with YSL, which is Young Slime Life. And then allegedly, Young Slime Life is a criminal street gang, allegedly.
I don't think it's alleged that Young Slime Life is a criminal street gang. I think it is a criminal street gang. I think it's alleged that he is the head of YSL. So, you remember? Okay.
Not a card carrying.
Not in the demographic for that.
But they're associated with murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, armed robbery, carjacking, theft, and drug dealing. So through RICO, those are all the things that he's...
Yeah, RICO is just trying to hold him liable for crimes other people committed, allegedly, on his watch, on his command. And so, the feds, for better or worse, when they proceed with charges, they build a very good case. You don't usually there's something there. There's at least smoke, right? You may not be guilty of the crimes that you get charged with, but the feds usually do their best to build a pretty strong case. So this just came to light. He was just arrested this week, I think. So this will be interesting. But a lot of the news articles I read were kind of saying, like you said, Joe, like some of the things that he speaks to in his music might be held against him in some way, which would be crazy. I imagine a good lawyer can, get rid of that.
Yeah. You'd have to, if that's how you looked at it, you'd have to arrest a lot of people, man, because there's a lot of songs out there,
right,
including some from your guy Ice-T, probably. If we're back.
He, Ice-T's done a good job staying in the public eye because he's on that show I don't watch.
Every
Law
show
and Order
that you don't watch.
SVU.
But that's the only so my truck is a 2016. My truck came with a CD player, right? So I don't think that's an option. I don't think you can even get that if you want it anymore. Right?
My car has a cassette player, so.
Okay,
that's nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I'll let you borrow my Ice-T Original Gangster. I have the cassette and the CD. But that's the only CD I have in my entire truck, and it's in there, right? So if I ever switch to...
It won't come out?
Well, it'll come out, but why would you take it out?
Why would you take it out?
Yeah. If I get...
Just let it merge with the car.
Yeah.
Become one with it.
If the radio... If there's nothing on the radio, and I'm flipping around, there's nothing on my phone I want to play, and I get to the CD.
Yeah.
That's the only CD I want to hear.
Yeah, okay.
I bet you that's something you didn't know before today.
No, I did not. I've learned a lot of things about you, man. Learned a lot of things.
Yeah, we've all learned quite a bit today. The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, our special guests in studio. Cassandra Nicholas. And again, she is a practicing attorney also at Whitaker and Hamer. And this portion of the program has been melodic, it has been mournful,
right,
and it has flowed quite well. We are going to come back on the other side and we'll wrap this up. If you've got a legal situation that you're facing, we've got a phone number for you, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. Leave your contact information, briefly what the call's about, and an attorney with Whitaker and Hamer will be in touch. And you can also email your question to the program. We'll answer it on a future show. Questions at theoutlawlawyer.com. We're back right after this.
Our motto at Whitaker and Hamer is that we're your firm for life. And we say that because we can handle anything that you throw at us, from your buying a brand new house to a traffic ticket to your divorce and even to a refinance of that old home. If you need anything in terms of legal advice or legal help, give us a call at 919-772-7000. And remember, we're your firm for life.
Welcome back into the Outlaw Lawyer. Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, your hosts. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. Our special guest on set is Cassandra Nicholas, also an attorney at Whitaker and Hamer. It has been a fast-moving show, lots of topics, but we need to wrap this up.
Morgan, one thing I did want to say, I feel like I have to say this at the end of every show, and you do a good job on introducing us and taking us out of segments, but we are, believe it or not, attorneys, and I think good attorneys.
I believe it.
Right. So the law firm of Whitaker and Hamer, that's where we're at. Like Morgan says, we have several offices in the area: Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Fuquay, Goldsboro, Gastonia. We have attorneys that practice in a lot of different areas. If you have a legal problem, we have the attorneys, we have the experience, we have the staff, we have the facilities, we have everything ready to assist you. And so we come on this show, we like to talk about legal news, we like to have fun, we like to let loose a little bit, but I feel like I always have to wrap up by saying real attorneys who go to court. Again, we're on video today and I wore my polo, not even my work polo. You didn't either.
You look great though.
Well, Cassandra looks like a real attorney.
Yeah, so she balances us out. We got Morgan, great. You, great. Me, yeah. You know.
I have a hard time wearing, like, I wear a suit to court, anytime I have to. Yeah. That's what an attorney does.
Sure.
Right. But if I don't have to go to court, real difficult to put a suit on.
I try to get as close to looking like a hobo as I can, right. And I actually dress up for this. This is you.
This
is as good as I can.
You trying as hard as you
can.
You're
going to be a skinnier hobo now because you're faster.
Oh my! And that's the best kind of hobo. You see a hobo that's not skinny, doesn't really equate as a hobo,
And you shaved and everything. You're trimmed up.
Yeah,
like,
I couldn't do that.
Shaving.
My guy, the plug for Mr. O, the Dominican barber down in Clayton. Check him out. You will not be upset.
We get paid for none of these recommendations.
No, I don't need to get paid for that. He's my guy, man.
He helps you out.
He's my guy, yes.
But again, and Morgan, you've got all the information. You've got the email. You've got the phone numbers.
Yep. Here we go. The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer. And again, Cassandra Nicholas, our special guest this week. Here's the phone number, 800-659-1186. That's 800-659-1186. You can also email your questions to the show, theoutlawlawyer.com. And again, just leave contact information, briefly what the call or the email is about, and we'll be in touch.